Okay, so we finally found out what the favor was of CM Punk on SmackDown. There's a couple of highlights here that I want to go through with you guys regarding Friday Night SmackDown, because there was a lot of stuff that I liked, but there was also just a few, I'm mostly just thinking of the Charlotte Tiffany segment I want to deep dive with you. So let's get some of the smaller items kind of out of the way. Rey Fenix had his debut match, loved it. I think it was great. He went up against Nathan Frazier. A little bit of a messy spot where it looked like Nathan Frazier was just dummied on the floor. But aside from that, I did really enjoy that Rey Fenix is out there. I wish his entrance was a little bit more grand. It didn't feel quite up to the level of Penta, but you know what? First week, first showing, great debut, great promo at the end. Like, I'm really happy for Rey that he is going to be on WWE TV. He's gonna be on SmackDown, and I look forward to what he's gonna be doing. We'll get him with Penta as a tag team, probably eventually, but there's no rush. Establish both guys individually. You know what would even be cool? I thought of this as Rey Fenix was coming out. You could do the Penta Rey moment. You could do it at like Royal Rumble. Let them have a full year basically of separated, build themselves up, and then you have that reunion, that moment in like the Rumble where they come together and they take out a bunch of guys. But I really did enjoy this. Other things to note for SmackDown: we officially have Jacob Fatu versus LA Knight going to WrestleMania. I'm curious what the involvement of Solo Sikoa is going to be in that. I think it's going to be wonderful. Congratulations to Jacob Fatu. He's going to WrestleMania, and LA Knight I think is a great opponent for him. And they've been building this thing up, but I think that there's a bigger story at play, which could be Solo costing Jacob the US title, giving him an actual loss, and maybe then it's gonna spiral off for Solo versus Jacob, or Jacob wins the US title off LA Knight and then Solo spikes him or something. But I do feel like that would be almost the after WrestleMania, post WrestleMania feud for that. And I think it was kind of going in that direction anyways, with Jacob going for the US title. Naomi, Jade, that thing is heating up. That is official. Next week on SmackDown, they're going to be doing a tag team gauntlet match for the women's tag team titles, or the #1 contenders, to take on Liv and Raquel at Mania. Kaden Carter, Katana Chance, Lyra and Bailey, Shayna and Zoe, B-Fab and Mi Chin, Alba Fire and Piper Niven, and Natalya and Maxine Dupree. Who would be your early picks? For me, the only teams I could see them doing, I kind of wish they were doing, I know we have a lot of multi-person matches at WrestleMania, but I kind of wish they were doing a multi-woman tag team match, bring in a couple of teams, but at the same token, you don't want to just throw people out there for the sake of throwing them out there. Bailey and Lyra could be one of the more likely contenders, because they were standing tall at the end of Raw against Liv and Raquel. It's kind of odd though, because you have the new-ish women's Intercontinental Champion, Lyra, and she's gonna go for like the tag team titles with Bailey. Find that kind of clunky. I kind of want to see Alba Fire and Piper going off, and you have Chelsea Green there. What's Chelsea doing at WrestleMania? Not the most exciting thing, only because they haven't built up anybody else. So I kind of default and say that it's going to be Lyra and Bailey at Mania going up against Liv and Raquel. So then we have the Charlotte Tiffany segment, and this picture of Tiffany holding up the women's championship at the end kind of sums it all up for me. I watched this segment twice, well, 3 times actually. I watched it live, I watched the YouTube version, which WWE cut out quite a bit of stuff, and then I rewatched the whole segment on Netflix. When I watched it live, I was like, is this good? Is this clunky? Is this awkward? I couldn't get a feel for it. The crowd was like dominating it, so that's always fun. Rewatching it, I found that this to be very awkward. That's kind of where I landed. Watching this thing play out, I think that if you didn't have the Chicago crowd dumping all over Charlotte and trying to boost up Tiffany, I think it would have been even more awkward. This felt like Charlotte trying to dominate and trying to just kind of push and jump in to the segment where Tiffany was talking and not really giving a good back and forth. And meanwhile, Tiffany felt very scripted, very rehearsed. She stumbled a little bit, and then like Charlotte calling her out for that as well. And even when like Tiffany's trying to punctuate it, where she was trying to swear at the end, she like swore, and then Charlotte immediately cut her off, so it didn't even have a second to breathe to let the crowd absorb it, like they've done Cody and John Cena, where they're swearing at each other. You have that moment where you like let Tiffany say the line and let it breathe in the crowd to react, and Charlotte just jumped right in immediately to cut it off. A lot of just like the moving, like Tiffany's moving, pacing back and forth constantly. Wade Barrett like literally trying to put his hand out to move Charlotte back into place. It just felt like they were needing to get a promo done. Two people standing in the ring being like, here are the lines, now go do it. And we have no idea what the ins and outs of this whole thing are, because the whole build has been very clunky. I think the one brawl they had was the good part that they did, but when they had the sit down satellite interview thing, that was awkward. And then they went for the in-ring, maybe hoping to salvage it and make it feel like, okay, this is our better shot. Let's get these two in the ring and let's just have them go after each other. This is the direction, this is the dialogue that we want to go with. But it felt like Charlotte was not even trying to lean into that. It was like, let's see if you can keep up. Let's see if you can get around this and deal with it. But then Charlotte getting just paraded and berated with boos from the crowd. I don't know if that made her stumble, if that pushed her, because she was getting booed so hard that she could not talk. So she was taking a moment to stop. But then it was like she stopped and then she goes, okay, Tiffany, you talk. I don't know. Like, Charlotte's done this stuff before where she had the title swap with Becky Lynch, and that was really awkward. I don't think anybody looked good in this. I think it just came off as clunky and awkward and not well thought out and well put together. And then just the unnecessary points of Tiffany saying that, pointing out Charlotte's personal life, like having 3 divorces, and then as she rolls out of the ring, the crowd is oohing, and again, not letting anything sink in. Charlotte immediately just kind of runs over and is like, why is Kaiser in my DMs? Like, all of that is completely unnecessary for the feud. This isn't a personal bloodbath. Like, that's out of nowhere. There has been no prior context for that. They didn't build this thing up as this personal feud between these two people who don't like each other backstage and they're butting heads, and now it's spilling out on TV and WWE leans into it. They didn't build it that way. It was just like Wade even started it off. Charlotte, tell everybody why you picked Tiffany. And even that was just kind of like, yeah, she's not good enough. They're comparing me to her. I'm like, you're both wearing black lacy stuff, by the way, like on the same day in the same segment. One person could have worn yellow, one person could have worn black. Like, even that, I was like, you're both dressed kind of the same. But I thought the personal stuff was just so unnecessary. It didn't add to it. I get it if you were trying to be like, well, we need to heat this thing up because it's not working. Let's try and jab at each other a little bit. That's what you do. You jab. Just jabbing at each other, taking shots. But who's that for? It's like Punk referencing AEW on TV. It doesn't matter. Like, what are you doing? How much of the audience got that, captured that? And even like the Kaiser comment, I was like, wait, what did she say? Because the crowd was booing. And then Tiffany goes up on the stage and holds the title upside down. I was like, oh, come on. This thing was bad. I didn't enjoy it. Let me know if you did. If I'm wrong and you're like, no, this was awesome. I'm like, this was cringe and this was uncomfortable, just awkward television. I don't think they should have done this at all. What's the alternative? Not more sit downs. I think it's just more brawls. Just do more backstage beatdown stuff. Have Tiffany throw Charlotte into a car, or just try to have Charlotte hit her with chairs in the back. Just some very basic 101 brawl stuff that is not very compelling, but these segments don't work. We've had multiples of them, and the whole feud and the build has not been great. I think Charlotte's position as the heel, Charlotte is like, she's always built as a heel, but they brought her out from the Royal Rumble, not as a heel, then they had to pivot her, and they're really trying to make Tiffany this babyface, and I don't see it. Yes, she's over with the crowd. People love Tiffy time. I've seen her live a couple of times. Great reactions. They like her as a babyface, so it does kind of work, but with this situation with Charlotte, not a good fit. Some people just don't have good chemistry, and it's really obvious on TV that you're like, this is not working. This is one of those things I just want it to be over with. Anyways, what did you guys think? Let me know in the comments about this feud specifically. The other big piece was going to be Kevin Owens. Now, this was revealed just the other day. I talked about it in a video of like, okay, Kevin Owens is probably gone, and we confirmed he needs neck surgery, so his match with Randy Orton is confirmed it is not happening. This was rough. Yeah, Nick Aldis introducing it, bringing out Kevin Owens. Kevin didn't stay too long and just thought he needs neck surgery and that this stuff happens and it's happening to him. So you could see the disappointment. Everyone's frustrated and upset. I'm upset that we're not going to see this match. I was really looking forward to it. And then the question mark is, who does Randy Orton pivot and what do they do with him for WrestleMania? Nick Aldis had Randy Orton come out. Kevin Owens and Randy Orton kind of cross paths for a second. And then Nick just says, hey, that means you don't have a match for WrestleMania. And then whoop-bam, we got an RKO to Nick Aldis. This is like the second RKO Nick Aldis has taken. Now, again, the question mark of what does Randy Orton do for WrestleMania? I did the video the other day talking about all the potential opponents you could do for Randy, so go check that one out, cheap plug. But then the possibility has now come up that Nick Aldis will come out of retirement and Nick Aldis will be the one to fight Randy Orton. It could be an exhibition match, it could be just an open challenge. Maybe they now pivot Randy into feeling like, okay, I don't have an opponent, so my storyline is going to be, who's my opponent? I need an opponent. It could be set up that way like Seth and Cody did for Cody's return match at WrestleMania. Seth didn't know who his opponent was going to be, and then they did the match. Could do that. Could be someone like an Aleister Black or Rusev, but Randy will and should have something at WrestleMania. So throughout the night, coming to the main event, throughout the night, the big story arc was going to be the favor. What was CM Punk going to ask of Paul Heyman? We had Seth Rollins arrive. We had the opening of Punk and Heyman in the ring, and Punk not revealing it until Roman was going to show up. You had Seth Rollins show up, and I like Seth in all of this. We'll talk about Seth in a minute, but I like Seth's interactions with Paul Heyman here. And then eventually at the very end, we had the main event, and you had Roman Reigns coming out, and you had Seth Rollins interrupt Roman Reigns. Eventually, we did find out that CM Punk has declared that Paul Heyman is going to be in his corner at WrestleMania. I like how Roman shook this off, like, that's it? That's all you wanted? And then looking at Paul Heyman doing such a great job of just playing it up and crying and realizing and showing Roman that, like, I'm sorry, I have to do this. Like, this was part of our deal with Punk, that I would return this favor years and years ago. So I really like that whole dynamic that they pulled off. I do like Roman's just lines of just like, wipe your tears and tell him no. He's like, Roman's such a kind of a bully in the relationship with Paul Heyman. He's like, I brought you here, I brought you up to relevancy. Meanwhile, Seth Rollins is in the background just losing his mind laughing because he realized what's going on, and these guys, everything's crumbling for them. So at WrestleMania, it is going to be CM Punk with Paul Heyman in his corner versus Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns having to go out by himself. What did you think about doing the reveal this way? I know I did a video talking very in depth about all the possible options of what CM Punk could be doing with this. This was one of the most obvious ones they would do, and I don't know. I like the segment. I like the performances. This was well done. This gives it a couple of weeks to build off of it, where you can have the Paul Heyman Roman Punk interactions, Seth and what's Seth doing. The intrigue now for me is, now that we know this, what is going to happen at WrestleMania in this match in the main event? Because on paper, it's like, okay, yeah, that's the favor. That's what we kind of expected. So it's not this big grand thing, big swerve. Paul Heyman's turning on Roman Reigns, but let's wait and see what happens at the match itself and how that plays out. Because I am wondering now more and more the role of Seth Rollins. This thing right now, I'm based on SmackDown, it really feels like it's Roman versus Punk. Like, that should be the match. But you have the third piece, which is Seth Rollins and all of this. And he had the interactions with Paul Heyman backstage. I am getting the feeling, like at WrestleMania in that main event, I think there's a possibility that Seth Rollins wins that match. And he wins it just because Roman and Punk are destroying each other, and Seth just kind of scoops in and gets the victory, or Paul Heyman ends up walking out with Seth Rollins at the end of the night. I think Seth deserves a win. This favor is just for WrestleMania, for Punk to have Paul Heyman in his corner, coming out of the entrance and then just standing there the whole night. That can't just be all it is. I think a really cool wrinkle would be that Seth wins, gets a WrestleMania main event victory, and he walks out with the wise man. Haven't seen that dynamic before. Could be a lot of fun. You get maybe a heel Seth Rollins, which I think his character could use, and you still have Punk and Roman doing their thing, because I think that would just set off their whole feud. Even if like Punk wins at Mania or Roman wins at Mania, I think the feud going out of it would be eventually a one-on-one match between CM Punk and Roman Reigns, and Paul Heyman is stuck in the middle. But if you pivot it a little bit and you had Seth win and walk out with Heyman, Roman's already just flabbergasted and disheveled because mentally he can't handle this, all the betrayals, everyone leaving him, ditching him, having to deal with that in the main event match. CM Punk just wondered, what the heck are you doing? And it gives Seth Rollins a victory over Punk, literally in the ring, but also with Paul Heyman. And Paul could kind of do it where it's like, I'm sick of you two fighting over me. I don't want to be a part of this relationship anymore, and I'm going to this guy now. So I am intrigued with this match now a little bit more, and I am excited to see how they play this out for the next couple of weeks. Hopefully it's not just pull apart brawls. I want to hear and see more of the Paul Heyman Roman Punk dynamic. Tiffany Stratton and Charlotte, I think, is just a mess, and let's get that match over with. And we got Street Profits Guns going up against Motor City Machine Guns. They're the new #1 contenders for the tag titles. I like the tag division on SmackDown. It's doing way more than what they're doing on Raw. But let me know your thoughts on SmackDown. Did the Punk segment deliver? Did the Charlotte Tiffany segment land for you? It didn't work for me, brother. Subscribe to the channel if you guys can. Have a great day. See ya.